Regular meeting of the Platteville Common Council to order this 14th day of May 2013 at 7 o'clock. First we'll do roll call.
Barbara Doss.
Here.
Barbara Stockhausen.
Here.
Dick Bonin.
Here.
Ken Killian.
Here.
Eileen Nichols has been excused. Patrice Steiner.
Here.
Michael Den.
Here.
Next is the consideration of the consent calendar. The following items may be approved on a single motion and vote due to their routine nature or previous discussion. Please indicate to the council president, in this case President Pro Tem, if you would prefer separate discussion and action. Item A is minutes of the April 23rd special and regular council meetings. B is payment of bills. C, financial report. D, appointments to boards and commissions. And tonight, President Nichols has asked me to appoint Kevin Wonderland to the Board of Review and Troy Maggie, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly, to the Historic Preservation Committee. Item E is licenses, and under licenses there are two items. The first item is 1 and/or 2-year operators for premises licensed to traffic in fermented malt beverages and intoxicating liquors. And item 2 is a taxi driver license. Item F, a permit for the Platteville 4th of July 4K race route. Are there any items you want removed and discussed separately?
Move approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, Doss motioned and Dan seconded. We'll take a roll call vote.
Doss.
Yes.
Stockhausen.
Yes.
Bonin.
Yes.
Killian.
Yes.
Steiner.
Yes.
Den.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item is citizens' comments, observations, and petitions. And we do have several people registered to talk. I do ask that you limit your comments to no more than 5 minutes. And I'm going to remind you too that this is a time for the council to listen and not get into a discussion. First up at bat is George Curry.
Here's one for Joe.
Good evening. Mark Thatcher is handing out, this is an informational speech about just informing you that the United Methodist Church is having something called the Mound City Faith Festival on Sunday, May 19th. It'll be from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon at the Platteville United Methodist Church at 1065 Lancaster Street. There will be 4 bands there. One from the United Methodist Church called the Holy Rollers, the Redeemers, the Living Proofs, the Viewing Party, and we're waiting to hear from Bono at this time. There'll be face painting, popcorn, food stand, kid games, door prizes, and a bounce house, and it's free admission. I repeat, it's free admission. There'll be a food stand there. Because we think there may be some noise in the neighborhood, we dropped off flyers to everybody within a 200-yard radius in the neighborhood so that people won't be surprised if their Sunday afternoon watching the Knicks game is there's a little noise outside. So we just thought we'd let you know, and Chief of Police thought it'd be a good idea to let you folks know that there was a concert going on, and it won't be hard rock. I think it'll be soft rock at best. So that's all I have to say. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to take questions. But we just wanted to let everybody know what was going on. So if you hear a lot of noise on Sunday afternoon, you'll know what it is. Any questions? Thank you.
Next, Marilyn Gottschalk.
Marilyn Gottschalk, 235 Virgin Avenue, Platteville. I have 2 concerns that I would like to talk to you about. The first one has to do with the fact that it's summer, that the downtown merchants are encouraging people to come downtown and shop. And we also are encouraging people to use their bicycles rather than their cars. My concern is that with the added traffic, hopefully, during the summer on Main Street, with bicycles on the downtown streets, and I'm including skateboards, this is illegal. In our code, city code, it is determined that it is illegal to have a bicycle on the sidewalk in the downtown area. I think a lot of people are not aware of this, but as a pedestrian downtown, having dodged bicycles and skateboards, I am concerned about it, and I would like to indicate that I have spoken to a couple of people on bicycles and informed them that this was illegal, and their answer to me was to continue on their bicycle on the sidewalk and tell me that there is no sign anywhere that tells them that they are illegal. So I guess I'm asking that, number one, you talk about some kind of signage downtown that tells these people that they're not to be on their bicycles on the sidewalk downtown, and to have some kind of information out there for them so that they know that this is illegal. Am I right?
It is illegal.
Okay. The second item that I want to discuss this evening is the issue of the privatization of the cleaning services for a municipal building, and I think that includes the library, and it also includes the senior center. When the city let the municipal employee go who was responsible for cleaning this building, a contract was drawn up with a private firm to do this cleaning. When I looked at the contract, that contract did not include the cleaning of the auditorium. This is an issue that I feel very strongly about. It seems to me that this council, many of you, have looked at that auditorium as something apart from this building. Somehow it's out there, but it's not anybody's responsibility. May I remind you that there is a church who comes in here every Sunday and uses the auditorium. And it is, my understanding is that at this point, if an event is scheduled into the auditorium, it has been in the past the responsibility of whoever is responsible for that event to be to do the cleaning. Now, I also understand that while the cleaning of the auditorium is not included in this contract, that these people will clean if they are informed, and that they will charge above and beyond what the contract calls for. So they can clean, but they will charge. I am concerned about this because I was part of an event that took place in the auditorium just last week. The Main Street program had an event in the auditorium. The event basically focused on the history of the auditorium. So we had the Main Street people involved. We had the group that has formed as Friends of the Municipal Auditorium involved, and we had Platteville Community Theater involved. So we have three groups. Who is responsible for cleaning the auditorium? And I do understand that a heads up to the cleaning people would get them in there. But my question is, who is supposed to keep track? What person keeps track of what is happening in the auditorium, and whose responsibility is it to contact the cleaning people and get them in there to clean the auditorium? And I am upset about this because it fell to the people who were supposedly involved in this event, and we had a call out for volunteers to come and clean on Sunday. we had one lone person show up, and we had one lone person show up on Monday. This should not be the responsibility of these people. So I'm asking you to make some kind of determination about how this all is supposed to work. And I know that I've talked to Larry about it before, and I do understand that if he knew, he would talk to the cleaning people, or Howard would talk to the cleaning people and would get somebody in there. But I am telling you that when we went into the auditorium the 2 days before this event took place, it's very dirty. And I do not understand why it is not part of the cleaning contract. Okay. I guess I will also just say to you that one easy way to deal with this is to bring back the city employee, put that person on the city payroll, and have somebody here in the building who used to be here and to whom we used to be able to go. Questions? You don't want me to name the lone person who was in there cleaning the auditorium? No. Well, I'll tell you. It's the pro tem person sitting right there in front of you.
I did speak to Larry about it already.
Okay.
So I think we got it worked out.
Sorry?
It's all right.
I didn't want to interrupt your expoundings.
I feel very strongly about this, and it has always in the past fallen to the community theater people to get in there and clean the auditorium. Well, we don't exist anymore for all practical purposes. So I am saying to you that the council needs to deal with this problem, and I am going to be waiting to hear how you plan to do that. Ken?
Question for city manager. I assume that the church is charged a fee.
They are charged a nominal fee, yes.
Do you hear the word nominal?
You believe cover the cost of cleaning?
Well, I think what we've seen is the expansion of the use of the facility. To answer your question, I don't believe it does any longer. When that relationship with the church developed, at that time I believe the space was the auditorium. At this point they're also taking over a little bit of space in the meeting room, and as I understand it, they hold some exercises in the council chambers. I have not attended a service, so I'm not sure what facilities, rooms they're in every Sunday, but I think that's a relationship that the city really needs to look at, and whether or not we want to continue to have that service.
Yes.
It may be something that is becoming disruptive enough that we want to maybe discourage outside groups from using our space as much as that group is. When you start storing children's playthings in our committee room, it certainly is going to step beyond what someone just borrowing the space would use. Maybe that's a relationship we need to look at.
I think it definitely is, and I will also say to you that in addition to using the auditorium, which does not get cleaned, they use this room for some things. They use the GAR room, but that's considered part of the cleaning, so that those rooms get cleaned. If you were to take the time to go down to the auditorium and go up on stage, you will see that they not only have used these various rooms in this building, but they have confiscated a lot of storage space. And the community theater is also guilty of that. However, we are in the process of talking to Howard about the possibility of storing some of our stuff downstairs in the basement. And so we would like to get rid of that clutter that's backstage, but the church is partly responsible for that. I believe there was a time when there was a very large wooden cross in our lighting booth. There is a, help me somebody, drinking trough backstage that they use for baptisms. Nobody has ever explained to me where the water comes from and who pays for that. Larry, do you know?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, our tech person in the theater has had that question, and he doesn't know. But the water's coming from somewhere, and it's going somewhere, somehow. So I guess I would agree that looking at the use of this building by the church every Sunday is something that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Yep.
Next is Daryl Browning.
Hello, my name is Daryl Browning. I own Browning Motor Service located at 785 South Chestnut, across from Roundtree Commons. I would like to discuss with you several issues regarding the 3 citations I received on September 24th. The citations are for failure to re-roof my building, remove weeds, and paint my building. All this started in 2011 when a man claiming to be the city building inspector came to my business in the afternoon. He was dressed in blue jeans and a t-shirt and did not have any proper identification to offer me other forms of identification that he worked for the city. He wanted information regarding 2 cars, a boat located on my property. I removed the boat and the vehicles in September. He did not discuss the roof replacement or painting, nor did he refer to weeds on my property. On April 30th, 2012, somebody stopped at my business and handed me an envelope addressed to the Browning Family Partnership. I called my sister to take care of the paperwork for the partnership and informed her that the city had sent the partnership a letter and for her to take care of it. She gave the letter to our family attorney issued on 715 South Chestnut. During a court hearing in February, Rick Reniker kept saying he was sorry several times that he had addressed all notices to Browning Motor Service to the Browning Family Partnership. The city had confused the 2 properties. In January 2012, a letter to the partnership, from what we could tell, I needed to paint my building, remove the boat and cars. The vehicles and boat were removed in early September. I did not re-roof my business since the roof does not leak, and Rick testified under oath that my roof does not leak. I received a call from Rick Reniker on the morning of September 17th. He stated he wanted to speak to me about my property. Rick wanted to come to talk to me on my property. I told him I was very busy and had 2 or 3 people in my office, and it would be better if I came to the city hall to talk to him. He asked me if I wanted to call him back. I said yes. I work alone in my shop and was unable to call back until Friday, and City Hall was closed. The following Monday, September 24th, when I was opening mail, I discovered 3 citations from the City of Platteville. City of Platteville's Police Department, dated September 11th, 12th, and 13th, for a total of $790. If you receive a speeding ticket, I don't think you would appreciate the officer writing you a ticket for the next couple of days just because he feels like it, without giving you a chance to go to court. I called Reniker's office and he answered the phone. "This is Rick." Since I do not know Mr. Reniker personally, I had to ask if he was the building inspector. I thanked him for my birthday present. His response was, "It took you that long to get those citations?" He also said he didn't know it was my birthday. Mr. Reniker called me on the 17th, 6 days after he wrote the tickets. I had to call the police department to find out what the citations were for. They could not help me. I then called the city attorney to find out what were the violations. He responded approximately 10 days before the court date of October 15th. Therefore, I had the original court date postponed. I started to review the city codes and discovered that according to the city code chapter 23 and the International Property Maintenance Code section 107.2, that all citizens of Platteville that had their private properties or businesses inspected by the city building inspector must, I repeat, must be sent a certified or first class letter informing the property owner of the description of the city code violation, why it was issued, be given a reasonable time to make repairs, inform the owner of the right to appeal the building inspector's evaluation of the property to the Board of Appeals, and also inform the owner that the city has a right to file a lien against that property. And the property owner cannot sell or transfer the property until the maintenance violations are completed. There is also another thing to consider. If a person goes to a lender to buy a house in this town and is at the top of his borrowing capacity, and the city building inspector comes around and orders him to paint, re-roof, tear down an outbuilding, where does he get that money? Will the lender will the lender make that loan in the first place? My family and I requested under the Open Records Law and Freedom of Information Act, all the communication, letters, emails, citations, etc., from the City of Platteville's employee council and their staff regarding any and all maintenance issues. When getting ready to go to court, we requested the above mentioned letters and were told we had to pay 25 cents a copy. Many of these copies were duplicated many, many times, adding to our expense. I have an email stating that there is a number of complaints on my property. But when I asked to see these complaints, we received a letter stating there were no complaints. At one time, I had 10 employees in my shop, and if this error would have happened in my business, I would have fired somebody. We discovered that Resolution 11-13, dated June 14th, 2011, signed by the former City Council President, states that the city manager, as directed by the Common Council, should encourage neighbors to turn in neighbors regarding property maintenance violations. We also discovered that 84 people received maintenance violation letters, and many of the people received a letter regarding weeds. Remember, last year we had a drought. 84 people received letters similar to the one I received. 84 people were not told they had the right to appeal these violations. 84 people last year did not receive due process of law by the city. In addition, there is no consideration for families' financial situation, illness, or if they are disabled. I also discovered that some people were given special consideration by the city manager, while others were not. In addition, people that received citations in 2012, the majority of these people were over 64. How many roofs were replaced by churches? How many houses were painted by volunteers? How would you feel if you had to beg your church to paint your house because you were hereby ordered to? All of the letters sent to the city of Platteville, there is no consideration for a family member who is sick or disabled. Each letter clearly states, I hereby order you to. Another point of interest is that one Cullenback house was cited for a maintenance issue. Is it possible the city considered this their property before the court-ordered sale? Or is the building inspector, Jonas Brandy, and the city manager in need of eyeglasses? That's just a thought. Now I know why all the painters in town were busy last summer when 84 people were told to paint their house. Also, the city manager has time to round around town looking for maintenance code violations. He does not need an assistant. This time should be better spent trying to attract new businesses into Platteville. For example, why hasn't Dunkin' Donuts been built? What is the delay? Is our city manager too busy looking for weeds to find out why it hasn't been built? Our family owns a house at 245 East Mineral Street. There's a creek that runs alongside the property. Every year, more of our land erodes away by the creek. For 30 years, we have asked the city to take care of the erosion problem. Every year, the city promises to do something. As of to this date, they have done nothing. I have pictures of city property taken in July of last year that are in need of mowing. The city does not follow their own codes, but every citizen receives citations without due process. I had no problem with the city of Platteville until the UWP wanted to buy my property. The next thing I knew, the former city council president stated the amount of money that I wanted for my property was ridiculous. I have been a Platteville fireman for 45 years, a Boy Scout leader for 30 years. I have donated vehicles to the UWP, Chicago Bears, which have come back with coffee stains and one with over $500 worth of damage. I have painted school buses for church. I have helped buy school buses for schools. I have donated heavily to the Platteville High School and middle school, and have been in business for 45 years. I believe that actions mean more than words. When you are seeking employers and job creators to come to Platteville, it would be in the best interest of the city to remove the International Property Maintenance Code from the city code. I do not understand why Platteville would adopt codes used by European countries. I also believe we should stop sending letters to the taxpayers of Platteville that state, "I hereby order you." Things need to change. The people of Platteville have given us a new city council for 2013 and a mandate to make changes. In my recommendation that the city of Platteville seeks a new building inspector who applies the law to all residents using due process of law, not just instructed by his boss. Under oath in court, the building inspector stated that he could enter any property anytime he wanted to. So to the ladies of Platteville, please remember to smile at all times. You never know when the building inspector is going to inspect your property. I think this is in violation of the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, unless you are a taxpayer of Platteville, apparently. It is my recommendation that the city of Platteville looks to hire a city manager that would look at the best interest of the city and not just for those who politically connected or wealthy enough to get their agendas through. I plead with you to instruct the city attorney to drop all charges against me and the rest of the citizens of Platteville that received citations in 2012. No one has received or processed or given the appeal or maintenance notices. Thank you.
Thanks, Bernie. Next is Michael Mail.
I would like to ask the City Council, and this is not the first time I'm requesting it, but probably the third or possibly fourth time, that we start all of our city meetings in the proper procedure. that we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. And I asked the council to put that on their next agenda item. And especially you, Dick, as a veteran of Vietnam, or you've told me you have been. Mike, I don't know about you, and Ken, I don't know about your background in military. But Dick told me about his. You worked hard to put those statues out on the city park. They meant something to you. Then that flag must mean something to you. And in every city that I have ever been in, they start the agenda with a pledge to the flag. And yet here in Platteville, we don't. Especially when we have our own armory here in the city. How many people did we lose? We have a board out there with names of people we've lost in military service. And yet we can't pledge allegiance to the flag. We've turned over this city council, hopefully for a brand new agenda. Let's start it the right way and start our meetings the right way with dignity and respect to this, our country, our city, and our flag.
And last is Mark. I can't read your last name on Sunset Drive. Is there a Mark here? To talk about a concert?
That must have been the kid that was with this.
Oh, he was, oh, okay, all right. Okay, and Larry, I believe you have 2 announcements you want to make also?
I do. Today I want to announce to the City Council and to the public that several staff members have gotten together and started something called Project Pulse. It's a fundraiser in the community of Platteville, and what we're looking to do is add AED machines to municipal buildings. I've handed out the brochures to the council members, and for those of you in the public, there are brochures on the back corner if you want to grab one. In total, we're trying to raise enough money to fund just over 20 AED machines, 1 in each municipal building, and some in the squad cars. And secondly, I'm happy to...
I would ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Larry, are contributions tax deductible according to the law?
I believe they are. We have a legal opinion from the IRS that says that they are. And donations may be made to the city of Platteville. The EMS is keeping track of the fundraising for us. Secondly, I'm honored to alert the City Council that we've hired a new finance director. Valerie Martin joins us. Valerie, could you come up? Valerie comes to us as a former Platteville banker and has recently as a team leader at the utility We Energies out of Milwaukee. Valerie has a bachelor's degree in communications, but she has a master's degree from Whitewater in business administration with an emphasis in finance and management. Valerie, could you tell us a little bit more about you?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. As Larry said, my name is Valerie Martin. I'm originally from Cassville, and my husband and I just moved from Waukesha back to the Platteville area. We have a 4-month-old son, so we moved back to the area to be closer to Grandma and Grandpa. As Larry said, I went to UW Platteville, my undergraduate, and then went to UW Whitewater to get my master's degree there. I'm very excited to be part of the City of Platteville community, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, there are other people who have registered to speak. I'm going to wait until we get to those issues on the agenda to call you up to the podium. Item 5 on the agenda is reports, committee reports, Plan Commission and Platteville Library. Both of those reports are in the packet. Item B is other reports, the airport financial statement for April, water and sewer revenue and expense report for April, the city attorney itemized statement, the city manager 2013 quarterly staffing report, and the department progress reports. Is there anyone who have questions concerning any of these reports?
No, but I did notice that the clerk again noted the times for the Board of Review, and then I noticed that she left at the time I was going to ask her to reiterate those. So I don't know where she went, but it is the time that if people have had changes in their assessment, they would have received some kind of notice. And, you know, so many people complain about their taxes at the end of the year, but it's actually, your taxes are based on your assessment. So if you're going to appeal, if you need to appeal because you feel that your assessment is incorrect, this is the time of the year to do it.
Do you remember, was it August? Oh, there's
Here
Jan.
she comes. Jan, we were talking about Board of Appeals, and when is it?
May.
I just can't remember, and I can't find it quick enough.
Board of Review?
Yeah.
Okay, that is next week on Wednesday. I think it's May 22nd. It's just a preliminary meeting to bring the Board of Review to order.
Okay.
And then I expect them to adjourn to adjourn to August 7th, so that'll be the official Board of Review date. The assessment roll will be available in the clerk's office on June 25th, and the open book with the assessor will be held on July 10th from 12:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up, Barb. Anyone have any other questions about the reports? If not, we'll move on to the action items, and the first item is Resolution 13-17, the adoption of the City of Platteville fee schedule. We did discuss this at the last meeting under information discussion, and this is a document that consolidates all the fees that the city charges into one document. Let's see.
I move adoption of Resolution 1317, which is the City of Platteville fee schedule.
Second.
Okay, it's motion by Dawes, seconded by Killian. We'll vote.
Dawes?
Yes.
Stockhausen?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Den?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item B is Resolution 13-18, approving exemption request for Evergreen Road reconstruction funded by the T-grant funding. Howard, did you want to do a quick brief on this?
Sure. Evergreen Road, we're looking to get Transportation Economic Assistance, or T-grant money, to pay for part of the cost of construction of the reconstruction of Evergreen Road. Under state law, any project funded with state or federal dollars must have sidewalks and bicycle lanes as part of the project. Otherwise, you have to have an exemption. And what this does is it follows the directions and proposals of the Safe Routes Committee and the compromise that was approved by the council at previous meetings to put a shared use pathway on the north side of the road in lieu of sidewalks. And so this is the technical resolution and paperwork that requests that. We believe that this will be sufficient to allow the DOT to finalize approval of the T-grant.
Move adoption of Resolution 1318, approving exemption requests for Evergreen Road reconstruction funded by a T-grant funding.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded by Dawson Killian to approve the Chapter 75 exemption for Evergreen Road. We'll vote.
Dawes?
Yes.
Stockhausen?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Den?
No, we don't need bike paths in industrial areas.
Motion carries.
Okay, item C is award contract 1-13 of Broadway. This is the first few blocks of Broadway from Main Street to Stevens Street. Howard?
Yes. Thank you. This project involves reconstruction, as you talked about. It will be replaced such that it will look pretty much the same as it was before, 40 feet wide, sidewalks on both sides, underground utilities replaced and upsized as needed. The issue right now is whether or not to go with an asphalt or concrete street. Under the DOT's database, the last full reconstruction of the street was 1964. In most places, the street is concrete with an asphalt overlay. What I have in my write-up is the additional cost of going to concrete instead of asphalt is less than 5% of the base bid. In my estimation, a concrete street will last longer than asphalt street with similar maintenance. The cost differential is very slight. There are different ways that you can calculate the this difference, but I believe that the value that we have, we should go with concrete. We have representatives from Iverson Construction. They have a difference of opinion that there is a different apples to apples comparison would be a better way of looking at it, and that it would make asphalt pavement more favorable for review. I've looked at it. I've reviewed their arguments. I understand them. I still fall back on the issues here that I think that we have a better, we have a longer lasting product with the concrete. One of the claims that was looked at was the possibility that Delta 3 has put in extra quantities of material in their product, in their bid calculations. We've got Dan Dressen here in the audience who can explain things on how he does his calculations if you wish. However, we did go back and look at some of our more recent projects. Iverson claims that the bid quantity is about 10% over what their calculation is. Elm Street was 10% under the bid quantity. Main Street was 15% under. However, there was some pavement eliminated at College Drive because of the condition of the existing pavement there. Two other streets, Hathaway Street and Washington Street, were both under 2% in terms of the quantity difference between what the bid quantity was and what the actual quantity was. So I think that that we're close in our bid quantities, but even if you do use their logic, the concrete alternate is about $50,000 higher than the asphalt. The issues here are how to look at that. There are advantages to asphalt pavement. The upfront cost is one. You could use that money elsewhere. The speed of construction usually, well, you can get on an asphalt pavement a lot sooner than you can a concrete pavement. Repairs are usually easier and quickly done. Concrete pavement generally has a longer life, and with our extended replacement schedule, that's one advantage that I think we can look at. There are no potholes with concrete. When and if they fail at joints and not as potholes. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both types of pavements. For normal residential streets, by all means, we should go with asphalt. That's a better alternative for most of our residential streets, and that's what we've used. For streets that have high truck traffic, turning traffic movements, and things like that, we need to look a little bit carefully, and concrete may be an appropriate solution on a one-on-one basis. And in this case, based on the differences in the price, I think the concrete is a better alternative in this instance.
Do you remember, Howard, what was used on Valley Road?
Valley Road is a concrete street.
I have a question for the gentleman from Iverson's. We talked once before, and we talked about a different oil that you can use in the high traffic area roads. Isn't that a possibility that could be done here in this case, and to increase the life expectancy of this road and also make it serve a purpose?
In order for you to answer the question, sir, you'll have to go to the podium.
And introduce himself.
Thank you. And please state your name and address.
Jared Bronchik, 3747 Contractors Court, Keeler. You asked about the oil that's used. There are different grades of asphalt oil. The most common is 5828, which basically is used throughout Wisconsin. The 28 refers to the cold temperature resistance, the cracking at cold temperatures. The 58 refers to how stiff it is. In an industrial park setting, you would go to a 6428, which would be a little bit stiffer oil, but still be the same cold temperature oil. We use 6428 on Water Street from
Pine to Main.
Pine to Main. We use the 6428. On that stretch, the rest of the road, I believe, was 5828.
So that would, if we use that other version for this project, it would handle all the truck traffic you're going to put on it, correct?
I believe so. I mean, most DOT projects, that's what they'll go to, is a 6428.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
What do you estimate as the life of the asphalt payment?
15 to 20 years.
15, 20 years. And Howard, what's the estimated life for concrete?
40. Now, 15 to 20 years, it depends on the use of the asphalt and the maintenance that's provided. I believe that we can get longer periods on an asphalt pavement when it's constructed properly and when it's maintained properly, but the reality is that still the lifetime of an asphalt pavement is, in my estimation, less than the full lifetime of a concrete pavement. But as we discussed before, there are the initial cost differences and the costs of repairs, and usually when you repair concrete, it takes longer for the repairs because you have to do curing. So there are trade-offs on both sides.
Any other questions? Okay, thanks. Any other council discussion?
I make a motion, we adopt the staff recommendation and award contract 113 Broadway reconstruction with alternate 1 Construction Street, Portson, out of Dubuque, for the bid price of $898, $364.40. I make this because I really believe that if our streets need to last 40 or 50 years, and that's a highly trafficked road, that's with heavy trucks, that's the way to go. So I make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Reiterating Barb's comment, Broadway is a county trunk road. It's and it already has, it is receiving a lot of truck traffic, school bus traffic, trucks from Faherty's, Bard Materials, it's got a lot of,
Grain trucks.
yeah, big trucks. And of course it, because of the Water Street construction, last year, it received a lot of extra traffic that normally it wouldn't have received. So Jan will vote.
Doss?
Yes.
Stackhausen?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Den?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and the last item under our action for tonight is IT needs assessment. Larry, I'll have
We
you
missed one. Whoops.
introduce this.
We missed one.
Yep, we'd like to go back to Evergreen
Oh, I'm
Road
sorry.
if we could.
All right, yes, I did jump.
Okay.
Award contract 2-13 Evergreen Road.
Okay. I hope this doesn't sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth here. The issue here is Evergreen Road. We have 800 feet of reconstruction from East Side Road to the east side of the Emmy Roth driveway. We have alternate bid for concrete versus asphalt. In this case, there is a much higher difference in the cost of the project to go with concrete in this instance, and mainly because it's such a short stretch of street. It's very difficult for the concrete folks to get in there and do the most efficient method of placement for their product. So the issue here is, do we want to spend 18% more for this product? The other part in this is that this is a project that we're looking at getting T-grant money, as we discussed in the other Chapter 75 action that you just completed. At the last council meeting, there was a question regarding our grant money in the early planning. Emmy Roth stated that they would create 32 jobs initially, and then if all went well, they would expand to a total of 60. And what we did was we approached DOT for the full 60 jobs, or $300,000 of grant. After further discussions between the staff, DOT, and Emmy, they could only guarantee the initial 32 jobs within the time limits established by DOT for this grant. Thus, the cap on the grant is based on $5,000 per job, or $160,000, and that's the potential confusion that council members had last time was in that. So part of my recommendation is based on the fact that we're receiving less grant money than we initially thought we would, based on the jobs, and the fact that the cost for concrete would add a lot of money to this project. So as part of the previous action, Chapter 75 Complete Streets, the plan is to narrow the street slightly and install the multi-use path on the north side of the street, so that in the future it could connect with future paths throughout the industry park. And as such, I recommend award of contract 2-13 to Pastina Construction for the base bid price of $266,021.50, subject to DOT approval and award of the T grant.
Any questions for Howard?
Howard, I have a question for you. What's the past couple jobs that Pastina Construction have done? Do you guys check those to see what their status were? The last 3 jobs? As far as quality and getting things done and everything else?
They have done work for the city of Platteville in the past. I don't recall which ones right off the top of my head. I think Dan Dressen has a couple of those that he can explain.
Dan Drossens with Delta 3. One of the last jobs they completed was for Delta 3 Engineering up in Cashion, Wisconsin, and there was no issues with that. In fact, they were able to get more work done than what we originally anticipated. Previous job that they had completed for the city of Platteville was East Side Road, the 2007 project, going from the North Hospital entrance out to Business 151. And then also, those are the last two projects that we've worked with them. They've also did some work last year for the village of Wazeeka. From my understanding, that project went well. And they also did a township road over by Dodgeville. And from my understanding, that went well as well.
Do Emmy Roth?
Oh, I forgot. And then they did the site work for Emmy Roth case.
Quick question. When they do these contracts like this, do we ever put in clauses for time? You have so long to get the project done, and if you don't, there are penalties?
Yes, all projects have that.
Okay. I never see them listed. I was just curious.
Sure. And just so you know, there's no such thing as a penalty. It's actually called a liquidated damage.
Okay.
There's no penalties in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay. Thank you. That's good to know. I don't know. I'm learning.
I have a question for Dan. What's the distance of the Broadway reconstruction? It's 800 feet for Evergreen. How would you say that's greater for Broadway?
1,800.
Yeah, it's about 1,800 feet.
Well, the thing that came up as a question to me was looking at the engineering costs. It says the engineering costs for Evergreen are $71,400, and the engineering costs for Broadway are $76,034. So they're very close together, about $4,600 difference. So would you explain why there's such a...
Sure.
We got a greater distance Broadway. Evergreen is just basically not much done there as far as infrastructure except build a road.
Yep. The reason for the engineering difference is that Broadway Street, we started that actually in 2012, and we had a contract with the city to start preliminary design in 2012 and all the survey work. So majority of the design work was done in 2012, 2013. We basically completed the specific design work for these three blocks. For Evergreen Road, it included doing some additional work for the T grant. We also had done basically a preliminary design of some work for like Insight Drive, Vision Drive, and Means Drive, which was the initial portion of the T grant, and some additional cost estimates. So Evergreen Road was higher because there was more than just redesigning 800 feet of Evergreen Road. It included doing some additional surveying and work in the industry park. And Broadway Street is lower because a lot of the design work was already done in 2012.
We were billed last year.
And you were billed, yes, last year.
So the engineering costs are higher for Broadway than the 70.
The total cost is yes.
Okay.
But the other thing that you need to realize is that Broadway is a city project, whereas when we have a T grant, there are the additional requirements that are put on to us by the DOT regarding, like we talked about before, this Chapter 75 report. There's what they call a design study report that has to be done as part of the T grant, and other T grant paperwork that we don't do internally for a city street like Broadway that's only funded by the city. So those are extra costs that are incurred in order to meet the requirements in order to get the grant.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
I got one for Howard.
Okay.
On this Evergreen Road, I see we've got the one bid there from Lowinger, who was a local contractor, which is only $271 higher than the out-of-town contractor. Have we ever done stuff like that before when it's somebody local and they're close?
Under Wisconsin statutes, we are required to award to what they call, quote, lowest responsible bidder, unquote. You have to determine that this lowest bidder is not a responsible contractor. They've done poor work in the past, or their financial problems or other things.
Okay, you've
If you-
answered my question then.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Howard?
But we haven't always given the bid to the lowest bidder. I believe with police vehicles, we have
It's a different set of
done
rules.
sometimes local,
It's a different set of rules.
different set of rule. Not different set underneath the state.
The public works law is what Howard was referring to, and the bidding requirements to award to the lowest responsive bidder. And those requirements do not apply to bidding for services or supplies.
They don't apply to the police. Is that what you're saying?
I think you said bidding for services.
Any other questions?
No other discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, we award contract 2013 Evergreen Road reconstruction to Festina Construction for the bid price of $266,021.50, subject to approval by DOT and award of the T grant.
Second.
Been moved and seconded by Doss and Bonin. We'll vote.
Doss,
Yes.
Stockhausen,
Yes.
Bonin,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Steiner,
Yes.
Den,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, now we are at the last item on our action items for tonight. Letter E is the IT needs assessment. Larry, did you want to introduce this?
Sure, I can give a brief description. We talked a little bit about this at our last meeting. This meeting, there's a full report of what the contract would cover included in your packet, which was absent from our last meeting. The city of Platteville has been having a little bit of difficulty with our internal servers and our internal network. So it's not necessarily the connection to the internet, it's the connections within the city's connection. So I believe last week our computer network was down 2 or 3 times, and then this week there have been problems. I guess I just proposed this as a way of trying to have an external third party come in and review our entire system to point out whatever weaknesses or strengths might exist within our IT network. I think as a long-term benefit to the city, it'd be a good idea to have someone come in, evaluate our system, and determine exactly what IT needs we have going forward and what is or isn't working with our current system. Unfortunately, I don't have the IT background, IT knowledge that this firm would have, and as far as specifics as to what's wrong with our system, I can't really tell you that. It's my belief that given the number of times our system is down, this is it's affecting our employees' productivity and impacting our city government, and it's time we had somebody come in and look at it.
Larry, is it just the computers here in this building, or is it?
No, I think the computer system that we use is something called Citrix, and we have problems at the EMS facility logging on to Citrix. Somebody will log on, they'll get kicked off right away. Just as a whole, I think there's something wrong with the system. And beyond that, I don't know that I'm qualified to give you more details. If you asked me what Citrix was, I'm not sure I'd even be able to define that to you. It's some kind of a program that we use, and there's something wrong.
So there was a list of city departments as a part of this. Are we to believe then that all of those city departments will take part in any kind of survey work that's done?
My understanding is that they will send somebody in to meet with or to review all of the computers and determine how they're hooked up to the network to determine what any obstacles might be in place. One of the things they did say is that, for example, I complain about my computer in my office, and they say it goes through at least 2 switches before it hits the main feeder to the police station. And you know, I guess my understanding is that that's a weakness. Maybe one switch would help make it faster or more, a stronger network. For those in the computer industry, I can't pretend to understand all of the IT issues.
I may have missed it. I just have looked through again, and I don't always see everything. But where is CompuNet International from? Who is CompuNet International? I don't see a address. I don't see the name of a person.
Okay. They're a firm that I was referred to by Dan Dargle, who is a gentleman that we've met with in the past. Dan gave me the business card and suggested that I ask them for some assistance, or to at least get a quote and find out what they would charge. This is a company that has taken on the IT needs at Roundtree Commons. They also have a contract with the school system on maintaining some of their internal network. As I understand it, they're coming pretty highly recommended. They don't have a facility in Platteville. They're coming out of, I believe, the Twin Cities right now. They are looking to establish a location in our community. And they didn't get into specifics as to what it takes for them to get a location here, but they did say that they'd be willing to take a look at our system to tell us what's going wrong.
Okay, so this is a firm coming from Minneapolis or St. Paul, the Twin
Yep.
Cities of Minnesota, and we don't have a contact person?
We
that
do.
would sign
We do.
this? Oh.
I don't know if he didn't sign the document then. Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so. I just see by CompuNet. I don't see.
I can tell you who it is. Just give me a sec.
I mean, you know, it's kind of like, who is this?
The gentleman's name is T.J. Carter, and he's at CompuNet Incorporated.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, CompuNet International Incorporated.
And I am to understand that we did not bid this to anybody.
That is correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, our current provider is Applied Micro, and we did not ask them to give us a bid on this.
Okay.
I guess when this process started, I was looking for somebody who was not familiar with our system to come in with a fresh eye.
I understand that. I just have another question, and that's what I don't know is, do we have a rule, a council resolution, a rule, something that says if we're spending over $5,000, it has to be bid?
Ooh, we might. I guess I should ask, if we do, would you waive that?
I mean, I don't know if we have that, but.
Yeah, I think there's an administrative policy that the city manager drafted years ago that we've been following. That's a good point.
Larry, I think it may be 10,000.
Okay. Do you have the policy by any chance?
I don't have it.
Jan, do you have a copy of the administrative policies with you?
No, up here.
Okay, if it's 10,000, then we're in the clear. If it's 5,000, then I'll have to.
I can check the policy tomorrow.
I'll have to. I don't know if you want to do a waiver tonight or how you want to handle that, or if you want to wait, table it.
You can go get it. There's
Larry,
somebody that's gonna.
I have
Yeah.
a question. We talked about fiber optic. They're putting all that in. We're all going to be connected with all that. Is that a long ways down the future?
No.
That soon?
The city is connected now.
Okay, when this stuff all gets hooked up and when we all are linked with all the departments and everything else, then would that be a good time to have these people come in and find out, make sure everything's going, instead of having them come in now
Right.
and we're gonna trash this and go with something different anyway?
Actually, that's exactly what I was thinking. Let's wait until after we're hooked up to the fiber to see if it helps. We are hooked up to the fiber and it has not helped. We're all done with the fiber. We're all connected to the fiber optics.
And everything, all the departments are interlinked then through this?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay.
And what has happened is that last week, just for example, it was down 2 different days for over an hour,
Okay.
around an hour apiece.
Okay.
So the problem still exists, and you know, I wish I knew more about IT stuff. Unfortunately, I can't specifically tell you what the issue is.
Are you saying the price is $5,800?
Yes, to have someone come in and review all of the computers and all of the networks within the city government.
So I ask my fellow people, is $800 a problem?
I'm just bringing up the fact that there may be such a rule, and if there is such a rule, then we need to address that.
Well, I live with computers every day, and to be down an hour in the middle of a day is just a crisis.
Right.
So for $800, I think, an additional $800, I think we should be more proactive here.
Is it 10?
Pardon me?
I just didn't remember what the amount was, but I know there's some kind of guideline, and so I just wanna make sure that whatever we do.
Competitive quotes.
What is the dollar threshold?
5,000
5,000 for competitive quotes.
5 to 25.
I understand, but
It's guideline 3-5 is what we would have to waive in order to accept the bid. Thank you for raising that.
and it's called guideline
If we need to do that,
3-5.
3-5 city purchasing guidelines.
it is 5.
Yes. Yep. If you do decide that you want me to bid it out, I can do that as well. This firm was picked because it was recommended and our schools were familiar with them and they had positive recommendations.
I just want us to be cognizant of our own rules.
Sometimes there's so many rules, it's hard to...
I
Yeah.
understand that.
Thank you.
but-
Thank
but
you
we
for
ought to be
bringing that up.
cognizant of our rules. And I do note that this takes a budget amendment, is that correct?
Yes, it does.
And this is coming from the savings we had in the assessor contract?
Yes.
And if this happens, I see that there is, have all of the changes to that assessor professional services line been noted? So is this current amount?
To date, we did use some of that money for the All-America City effort.
Right.
That is included.
That
What is not
75 has been subtracted?
Yes.
Okay?
What is not included is the next line item on your agenda.
Right.
And that
Okay.
that's number 3, and number 3 takes into account number 1 and number 2.
Okay.
So,
All right, I make a motion that we waive city purchasing guideline 3-5 and accept the contract with CompuNet at a cost not to exceed $5,800, and that CompuNet be directed to present results of their findings at a future council meeting, and that we transfer the needed money, the $5,800, from the city assessor's budget line to the data processing professional services budget. I think I've got it covered.
I think you did.
Second.
You do so well, and I second that motion.
I think Mike got there first, Barb.
Oh.
No, she was.
All right.
Whatever.
Fight over it. All right, we got
Which one?
a motion, Barb. Motion by Dawes, second by Stockhausen. Oh, I'm sorry. Michael Mayo did ask to speak on this. I'm new at this, Mike. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the last time you gotta state your name and address, my bad.
Michael Mayo, 375 South Chestnut, here in Platteville. I do know a little bit about computers, not a lot. I do know that there is a problem sometimes with the various servers. Sometimes more definitely makes it safer for the communications, especially communications to and from and for the police department. More channels we have that have to be hacked into, if that be the case, the securer the system is. Now, we're talking about spending money. This is 2 weeks in a row that Mr. Berkey has come up with spending money for the wonderful program that we're supposed to be, could be awarded to, the All-American City. And now again, for computer systems. Have we discussed this at all with the current vendor and asked for their particular assessment of the problem? If they're under contract, we should allow them to fix it under contract. and then go ahead, if we need to spend the money. I mean, we can't just throw out a contract because, well, we just feel like it today. That's like Mr. Browning and his scenario with the police officer. Oh, I feel like giving him 3 tickets today. But I don't know what he's going to do tomorrow, but it doesn't matter. But the problem is we have contracts. We have to uphold our contracts. We have to give our vendors time. Do the vendors know that we have the fiber optic system in? Does the vendor have not the right to go ahead and make the changes so that their system works with the fiber optics? No one gave them a word yet. Mr. Berkey's telling us right point blank. He went to an outside vendor, but not to a vendor that we have contracted to for in a minimum of a year. It's not the tremendous amount of money, the $5,800. It's a matter of a contract. The ability for this council to stand up to what they do. I mean, for all their intents and purposes, why don't we just fire the city attorney right now? It's the same thing. Mr. Berkey doesn't like the way he looks today, so let's fire him and get a new attorney in. That's how ridiculous this is sounding. Use the formula that we have to correct the problem before we go ahead and try to rearrange everything. Get our contractor in there. It may be within the contract for him to upgrade that system at no cost to us. We don't know, do we? That's your responsibility, Larry.
Excuse me, Larry. I was under the impression that they had already come in and looked at the stuff and they hadn't fixed the issue. Isn't that the case?
Every time the network breaks down, our current provider comes in and
okay, they have been in here, Mike, to look at things, and they haven't been able to get it fixed. Is that correct?
Well, no, they get it fixed, it works for a while, and then eventually another problem arises.
Okay.
It's all fiber optics then?
I don't know that.
Our current providers deal with the IT network. Anybody that looks at our network will be able to tell you whether it's hooked up to fiber optics or not. I'm fairly convinced that whether we sent them an official notice or not, that they would know that we're hooked up to fiber optics.
If they know they've been working with copper, they have to be informed of
Sir,
the change.
Mike, Mike.
Call the question.
Roll call vote, Jen.
Doss?
Yes.
Stockhausen?
Yes.
Bonin?
Yes.
Killian?
Yes.
Steiner?
Yes.
Den?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, item 7, information discussion. The first item is the part-time assistant at the senior center. And, who wrote this? Larry wrote this?
Yep, I drafted it on behalf of the Platteville Senior Center. I was invited to attend a meeting of the Commission on Aging, and we had a very good meeting, and I appreciate the invitation. We sat down and we talked about senior center staffing and what kinds of goals and objectives the Commission on Aging would like to see happen at the senior center, where they want to go and what direction they want to do, what direction they want to take. And as a result of our discussion, they made a motion to request that they receive another half-time position at the senior center. The half-time position was something discussed several years ago as part of our staffing plan. We have not implemented that additional half-time position up until it became a discussion point or a request from the Commission on Aging. I understand that the interest of the seniors is, number one, the growing population of seniors in Platteville. The senior center is always very busy. If you go in there for lunch, you'll see the tables are very busy. They've got lots of events and games. I'm hoping that several seniors will speak to this issue this evening. They also expressed an interest in trying to bring in more seniors into the senior center and opening up maybe perhaps some evening hours where seniors can gather and have events. So all in all, the staff is taking the position and recommending that the remaining money left from the assessor's budget be used to support a 2013 part-time position at the senior center for half of the year, starting July 1 for half-time. So it'd be about 20 hours a week. And I believe that's our recommendation.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
It says under impact that we'll go from 2 half-time employees to 3.
Yes, that's correct.
Do those employees receive benefits?
They do not.
There's no benefits.
No, half-time position does not qualify for benefits. When I say benefits, I'm referring to health insurance. If you work, help me out here, is it 1,200 hours now? I believe after Act 10, you have to work 1,200 hours every year in order to qualify for retirement benefits under the state system. That used to be 600 hours, but now at 1,200, it's a little bit closer as to whether or not the position would qualify for retirement.
When you say part-time, are you saying 20 hours a week?
I am.
So the 2 current half-time employees are?
They are 25 hours, I believe. Connie, can you help? 25 hours, the 2 current employees. So we would be hiring a 3rd employee at 20 hours. So you got 2 of them at 25 hours a week and 1 being proposed at 20 hours a week.
And when you said there are no benefits, does that mean that there's also no vacation?
Oh, that's a good question. There is vacation, excuse me, yes.
And what was the retirement amount? 1,200 hours?
1,200 is what I believe the state of Wisconsin requires.
Okay, so the 2 25-hour-a-week employees are on the Wisconsin retirement system?
Yes.
But regardless, there's no health benefit.
Right.
Well, frankly, I don't think it's a good idea to be hiring people without benefits as far as health.
There are 2 people who have registered to speak in favor. I can call them now unless you have questions. Howard Hull. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, Milt, go ahead.
Go on, Howard.
And if you could state your full name and your home address, please.
I'm Milt Rui. I live at 1510 Bears Court in Platteville, and I'm here to represent the Commission on Aging, and I'm also here to highly support this half-time person because we're at a point right now where we need to do planning and have a staff and planning in order to meet the needs of many of the people that would like to have some time at the center. But we've got to plan for them, and we can't do that until we get another staff member to do it. So we're really delayed from being able to carry on and to provide for many of the seniors here in Platteville that are not participating in the day program at the present. So I personally think that this is the way we need to go, and we've been wanting to do that for a couple years. So I'd appreciate very much if you'd give this serious consideration so that we can continue to improve our relationship with the seniors of Platteville. Thank you.
Howard?
My name's Howard Hull, and I live at 865 Kelly Avenue, and I'm a member of the Aging Commission. And I'd like to further expand on what Milt said, that according to the 210 census, we got about 3,000 people living in Platteville that are over the age of 50, and this is what the Commission on Aging is supposed to service, those people over plus 50. And right now, our participation probably in the 100 range, and we're actually supposed to be servicing these up to 3,000 people. And go along with what Milt said, we want to expand services to this type of people, this range that can't really come to a lot of the daytime programs. We need night, maybe and weekend program or something that they can benefit from. And this, by a program, I mean informational programs, something on health or estate planning or whatever it might be. And we need the help to set up these meetings. And the two people just can't hack that right now. I'd just like to urge your support for the additional position. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. Now, there are people who have registered in favor of this idea. Jacqueline, I'm sorry, I can't read the last name. Mihelsick. And Robert Pierce. Betty Stark. Joyce McDermott. Josephine Kisher. Dolores Moen. Judy Pierce. Kent Cullen. Dick?
I'd like to speak on this a little bit. I am the council liaison to the Commission on Aging, and this is my second year with them. Started my second year with this commission, and I'm gotta agree with them. They need what they have planned for a couple of years now to fill in there, because they are getting more things going on, and a lot of times these ladies that are working down there and got certain jobs they have to do, and then they end up having to help load the bus or something because they need help with the bus once in a while, and this takes these ladies away from their job. Sometimes they even have to go on the bus route because they're short some staffed, and it takes them away from their jobs inside. So I feel that they definitely need to be adding a third, is it third? Yeah, third part-time person.
Okay, and Howard said nighttime and weekend programs. What kind of, what, I'm not quite sure what programs.
Connie, can you come up?
Someone from the senior? Yes.
I'm Connie Steinhoff. I'm the director at the Senior Center. And can you repeat the question? What were you looking for?
Howard said evening and weekend programming. I'm not quite sure what all that entails.
Well, right now, half of the seniors we serve people 50 and older, and that encompasses about 1 in 5 people in Platteville, 1 out of every 5 people. Of that part of the population in Platteville, the 50 and older, half of those people fall in the 50 to 65 category. So these people are still working or have other obligations, and they're not available when we have programs which are during the day with our regular hours. To reach that demographic, the young seniors, and provide them opportunities to learn, like he said, estate planning, any type of health information. A lot of programming now is Alzheimer and dementia type of programming that people benefit from, or even some social programming that gets them out. It would have to occur late afternoon, an evening, or on a Saturday morning. And we currently just don't have the staff to expand our hours to that point. Currently, between the two of us, we have 50 hours a week, and we overlap just a bit, and we're open about 38 to 40 hours. So that's really tight scheduling. And we would love to offer those things to support that 50 to 65 range. We just have our hands tied right now. We just can't do everything. We need one more person.
Do you have an idea, Connie, of the type of numbers of people who would participate in something like this? I mean, I can see it being more popular, say, in the summertime, but in the wintertime, are people going to drop off because it's cold and snowy and icy and they don't want to go out?
Well, you know, that used to be, a lot of people were snowbirds and they would leave in the wintertime and go to warmer climates and that type of thing. We saw that in our daily attendance for a few years, but lately, over the last couple of years, that has changed. And we've got people who are staying put now and looking for things, especially in the wintertime, that to get them out of the house, especially if the transportation is available, so that they're not get the cabin fever, and they need to get out. And more studies show that isolation is really really an issue with depression and all those types of things, and those medical and health benefits from getting out and doing things in the community. And if we can offer these things for people to learn and people to improve their quality of life. That's what it comes down to, is quality of life. It would be something that everyone can benefit from. People could stay in their homes longer and live independently longer, which benefits everyone. You know, it just goes on and on and on. So,
Connie, could you tell me about the volunteer, any volunteer involvement programs you have, and the number of hours you have volunteers working in your center?
We have approximately 40 to 50 volunteers that work at the center on a regular basis. Most of those are in the kitchen. But
the kitchen program isn't your program. The kitchen program is somebody else's program. So I'm asking how many people are working for the Commission on Aging, the senior center, not for the meal program from Lancaster.
Okay, but those people that are in the meal program also volunteer to go on our bus and participate and volunteer in our programs as well. They help set up the activities, because they're there. They volunteer for both organizations.
Okay, so I'm asking
as far as the number goes, I have not kept track of the hours because we really haven't had a schedule for hours. We fill in as needed.
If you could, I'd like to see about volunteer hours.
All right. And number of volunteers?
Volunteer hours is fine, doesn't matter the number.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Connie from the council?
Oh, I actually also wanted to know what kind of collaborative programming you're doing with other facilities in town, whether it be Park Place or Bears Court, or there are several other facilities in town. So I'd like to hear about the collaboration that the senior center is having with those.
Well, right now our biggest collaboration is the senior picnic, and senior service providers from every aspect come and help with that. We work together with Manor Care and our house assisted living when they provide treats for our bingo. We work with the library. We work with Park Place on some of their programs, sharing information. We do a lot of those types of things. So we are supportive of other organizations and their work with seniors, and we work very hard to make sure that our programs do not overlap with theirs. So we are not duplicating programs. We want to make sure that we are doing something original. We're not just going to repeat something that another organization is doing. We share the information and the scheduling and work together with that. So is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, are there regular meetings of the people who are director?
We don't have regular meetings yet. That's something that has been discussed. Currently, we don't have regular meetings of that. We do for specific events like the senior picnic.
Okay. I guess my concern is a affecting the 2013 budget, the $6,400 that,
Actually, it'd be 12,800.
I thought that would be for the whole year.
Oh, but it looks
Yeah,
like for the
annual.
2013 budget, we can get it out of the assessors, but beyond that, it would
Right.
basically be diverting money from the capital improvement program
Right.
to this.
Although if we take it out of the remaining assessor's money, that means that money is probably gone then. Still kind of early in the year. I guess I would prefer to wait until budget time, while we're working on the 2014 budget. Anyone else have any comments? As we'll move on to the contract to award for sidewalk repair. This is an annual thing.
That's correct.
Howard?
We have a $40,000 budget. We have bids. One of the bidders, we did reference checks, and we're concerned that they may not be a responsible contractor under the legal definition of that term. So we're going to recommend that we go with Lowinger Brothers Construction, and then with Sidewalk Savers LLC for grinding. We've been doing grinding for the last few years. What we're asking for next time is that we approve an award of contract to Lowingers and to Sidewalk Savers for up to the combined budget of $40,000.
Okay. Any questions for her?
What is, when you say grinding sidewalks, so you just kind of like level them? Is that what the
Yes.
issue is? Okay.
Yes.
When the sidewalk is buckled.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, and then item C is proposed tennis court reservation fee. This is Jordan.
This fee came to our attention when the UW club team had asked to reserve all 4 tennis courts on a Saturday in April for the whole day, from 8 to 4. Being that these are the only 4 tennis courts in our entire city, we thought that...
Jordan, you have to speak up. We can't hear you.
You might need to move the mic closer to.
Sorry. We thought that the tennis
Start over.
courts...
You need to start at the beginning again. We
Okay.
didn't hear what you said at the beginning.
Okay. This fee came about because the UW club tennis team had asked to reserve all 4 tennis courts on a Saturday in April, from 8 to 4 all day for a meet, with other communities coming, other tennis clubs, as well as Monday through Friday practices. If you want to reserve any of our ball fields or any of our shelters for your exclusive use, you have to pay for it. So it made sense to add a fee for the tennis courts as well, being that these are the only 4 courts in the entire city. We don't think it's fair to the public to have you show up on a Saturday, want to play, and all 4 courts are being consumed all day. So the Park and Rec Forestry Committee is recommending $15 per court for 2 hours if you want exclusive use of the tennis courts.
And when they, did they indicate at all, like during what the tennis season is, how often they want the courts, how many hours?
Well, it's in the spring, so I want to say their first Saturday was April 6th, the first Saturday in April, and then they wanted all the Monday through Fridays from like 3:30 to 5:30.
Oh,
that's prime tennis time for a lot of people.
Yeah. And then Saturdays too?
They specifically requested just the one Saturday, but I'm sure there are others.
Okay, did anybody from the public complain that the courts were not available to them? Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
We also had a cold and rainy April,
Yeah.
so there weren't a ton of people out there, but
I've received about 8 phone calls already from people that play tennis there a lot, saying they don't understand why we even want to do this. First off, those are public courts, okay? They're for the people of Platteville and their guests. They're people that want to come in and play. It's not an isolated specialty thing that the college should come in and have a chunk of it during prime time. And you said Monday through Friday during the week. These people play tennis up there all the time. The courts are always very busy with the people in Platteville. I don't see reserving court times. I just don't agree with that at all.
You know, for the park shelters, if you want to reserve that shelter, you pay the fee and we post the sign.
Correct.
And then if anybody's there, you can ask them to leave because you've paid for that shelter. So,
Right.
and same with the ball fields, which is why this court reservation follows the same policy.
Thing of it is, we have other shelters. There's more than one shelter, okay? They're different shelters. And I remember when we did that fee, okay? And it's used very sparingly. Ball fields also, there's a lot more than 1 or 2 ball fields, okay? We only have 4 tennis courts. They can play tennis at the college if they set it up on the indoor facility. I've seen them do it down there. They have all that option.
Yeah, my concern too is the Platteville Area Tennis Association, Pata. I mean, they were instrumental in getting those 4 courts, you know, resurfaced and actually the 4th court added. And they're still doing the fundraising to add, you know, items to the courts. So I guess my concern is because they're the ones helping the city. They're doing this all volunteer work, and like Mike says, they're showing up in the afternoon and not getting to play tennis after they've done all this volunteer work.
Well, and frankly, I feel if we're going to set a rental fee for an external group that's not city residents to, you know, in this case, that it should be a substantial rate. $15 for 2 hours would not, I mean, if somebody wants to come in and hold a tournament for 2 days, I don't know what it costs to hold a tournament at any of our other fields if it's some, not a city rec group, but I mean, seems to me like if we're gonna do that, the fee should be substantial, because it is impacting the people who have volunteered and done the fundraising and everything else. I mean, I would suspect that you're not getting people who are calling on a daily basis who say, Jordan, I'd like to go play tennis on Tuesday from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. I need a court reservation. And then are you collecting $15? Or is this
No,
just...
no, nobody's
Right.
calling to reserve except for the club team.
Right.
And, you know, PATA has never asked to reserve the courts, but they're there every Tuesday at 6 a.m., but not many other people are.
Right.
And for their spring tournament, they have a tournament against the club team in May. That would be something that they would have to, if they want to use all 4 courts, reserve them for. And just like we do with our baseball fields with Platteville Youth Baseball Association, we get a portion. They do a lot of work up there on the ball fields, but we also get a portion of their registration fees to help throw back into our maintenance fees. So, you know, the grass still has to be mowed around the courts, and that's where this would go.
But how many times are ball fields or softball fields actually rented? Very minimal, right?
Sometimes, occasionally.
Experience anyway.
Yeah.
Very minimal.
So are you opposed to renting it?
Yes, I am. I'm opposed to renting the tennis courts.
Well, what happens if a tournament is scheduled and residents or the tennis team can't use
They have
it?
their own facility over there, Mike. They can play on their facility.
But what if the Platteville Tennis Association schedules a tournament, not some other club team?
I don't know about that.
And residents who otherwise are not part of that tournament can't use the courts then. So by not charging a fee, aren't we putting ourselves in a similar situation where we can't access the courts?
What does the Baseball Association do when they have their tournaments up at Legion Field?
They rent the fields through us. We don't charge them because, again, we get part of their registration fee. But if an outside group wanted to come in, like we just had a fraternity come in and want to reserve a ball field to have a tournament, they paid.
So in other words, we've got monies coming in from all types of recreation areas except the tennis courts.
Correct.
And then why do we gotta make an exception and leave them to be free?
Basically, what you're talking about with the softball, people having tournaments, it's basically city tournaments, right? The city recreation program has a tournament.
The Platteville Youth Baseball League is not a city program.
The Platteville, pardon me?
Platteville Youth Baseball Association is not a city-run program.
It's not a city-run program, but it's a program for the city. I was on the board of directors for those guys for a long time, so I'm familiar with that. But it's all city people, okay? That pay taxes, live here, their kids play, it's all part of our city. When we bring in, and you're gonna isolate the people that volunteered, that work, that are city residents, to utilize a large portion of the tennis courts for college kids, I don't see that.
But
And
that's the point of making them, asking them to pay for, to use the courts
Well,
if they want.
I would argue that our college students that live here 4 years are residents. They vote here, they are residents, and some of them may even own homes here. I don't know that. I guess I don't have I have an issue with reservations during the day. If people want to try and go and practice from 3:30 to 5:30, I don't think. But I think that we should have some reservation fee and some reservation structure for tournaments, whether it be the Platteville Tennis Association tournament, the whoever tennis tournament, but I think we should have some kind of fee associated and reservation fee for a tournament. But to say I want to reserve the courts every day from 3:30 to 5:30, if you're going to go out and practice, then you're just going to go out and practice, and you're going to take your knocks, as far as I'm concerned.
Agree with that.
But I do believe that we should provide some methodology for reserving a court for a tournament and then advertising that. So I would be in favor of that, but not this 2 hours on a daily basis kind of thing. They just have to find times. They can go out and practice at 6 o'clock. There aren't a lot of people using the courts at 6 or 7.
Is the council saying to take this off the agenda then? Do you want this on for your next meeting, or maybe we shouldn't even pursue it?
I want it on with a reservation fee only for a tournament.
Okay.
And you want to keep it at 15 or?
No.
No, that's fine.
I would like, no, it's gotta be more substantial for them.
Maybe
If
some
you're
kind of
gonna
substantial.
isolate,
Right.
you bet.
Okay. Well, Jordan, you want to come back then with a proposal at next?
Sure.
Next meeting. We'll have it on for action. Okay, item D, ordinance repealing and recreating miscellaneous sections of the municipal code, replacing fee language. This is the next
Yes.
step in the process of consolidating the fee schedule, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Earlier in the meeting, we approved the fee schedule resolution. This now takes it out of our city code and puts all of the responsibility onto that fee schedule to identify what the fees are.
And if we want to change it, we look at it once a year during budget time.
Or before budget time. And you review the resolution with the fee schedule, make whatever changes we want to make or not make, and then approve it every year so that we stay current on our fees.
Any questions?
I did want to make a correction on page 4 of 13, under section 14. It looks like it struck the language instead of the red language. It should be not struck. It should just be underlined. So the last sentence will say the submittal shall include an application fee and the amount is established from time to time by a resolution of the Common Council.
That should not be struck.
It should not be struck.
Okay.
We will make sure that's corrected on the next version.
On the next version, yes.
Okay, thank you, Jen. Okay, last item under information discussion, conditional use permit, Pioneer Lanes outdoor entertainment area. Joe, did you want to explain this?
Yeah, the Pioneer Lanes would like to add an area to the south of the building. It's an area that's currently part of their parking lot. They would fence it in. It'd be used for live music. They'd have beanbag tournaments, other activities that they would do primarily to get more patrons coming out there during the summer time. Bowling tends to drop off a little bit in the summer because people want to be outside. They would fence it in. They would provide picnic tables and so forth inside there for patrons to use. They would have beverages and food out there, so it does fall under our ordinance that requires a conditional use permit. Plan Commission has reviewed this and recommended approval. They've got a couple of conditions on the fencing, and basically that if in the future that we receive any complaints regarding that outside area, that we can revisit the time limits that are proposed in the ordinance. Any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. I think our ordinances also ask, or specify a certain amount of space for parking based on how big a facility is and usage and that kind of stuff. Has that been reviewed? Because this will be taking a sizable portion of what's now the parking lot. So I'm asking if they're still going to be in compliance with our rules and regulations as they apply to parking at a facility such as this.
I will double check that. I believe that they've always had more parking than our code requires, but I'll double check that.
And I just have one question, or perhaps a concern, Joe, and that is about the double fence. They said that they would have emergency exits, 2 of them, off this patio area. But if there's a double fence, does that mean that people leaving in an emergency would have to go through 2 gates instead of 1?
Only 4 foot apart.
Hi, I'm Joe Hack, 623 Church Street, and it's in Allenton. I'm representing Pioneer Lanes. I'm the general manager there. As far as the fence goes, what we would have is a double fencing, but where the actual exit would just be a single gate that would swing, just a single push swing out.
Okay, that was my one concern. Did you have anything else you wanted to say to the council?
The one thing that I did have with the last meeting was about the fencing. It was brought up to me that it would have to be, a rigid fencing, everything else. That kind of goes on to what type of fencing is actually being required. I mean, can I have a snow fencing that's rigidly taut, or do I have to have a wood fencing? Do I have to have chain link? I mean, the fencing alone was brought up that we would voluntarily, we're going to do that. We brought up that we were going to put the fence up. It's not actually in the ordinance that we have to have it. So if it becomes something that's cost prohibitive, then we might as well stop. I mean, if it's required as a chain link or a wooden fence, it's going to cost us $5 grand to put a fence up, and that's just not worth it. So that's the one issue that I would have.
Yeah, I would just comment that that was a request of the Plan Commission, and they brought up, I think the example used with those plastic construction fences are easily pushed down, that somebody could easily just hop over and get it out of the way. I don't think there would be an issue with a standard snow fence, because that is more rigid material. At least that's my recollection of the Plan Commission concern.
Would you take it down then during the winter, Joe?
Yes. Yeah, it would only be used basically the end of May, June, July, and August. Into August, once our leagues start up, which is mid-August, then we'd have to pull everything down anyways. Because that's the common area where the league bowlers would park, is the side of the building. The other one issue that I had a concern on was the complaint, when it was said that would be, if we had any complaints, it would be revisited. What is a complaint? Is that just one person calling, or is it 10 people calling? Because I mean, if it's one person calling, I can guarantee you we're going to revisit things, because there's always going to be somebody that's going to complain. So it has to be a little more specified.
Yeah, well, there are no apartments, no housing over there, so I wouldn't think noise would be an issue.
I don't anticipate there being an issue, but that was a request that the Plan Commission made with one of their conditions. That's a recommended condition. The council doesn't have to follow that recommendation. Or you can specify it in more detail if you'd prefer.
You're pretty isolated over there.
Right. I just don't want to get caught in a catch-22 where somebody happens to be walking their dog at the dog park park, hears a little bit of noise and calls, and all of a sudden I have to shut everything down.
You could do it on a 1-year trial period and revisit it after a year. If there are problems, address it at once.
It seems to me like our police department would perhaps weigh in on that, because I mean, I think they handle noise complaints and complaints all the time, and I think that
we've had the issue though where, and the council interjected themselves into that, where we've had one complainant consistently complaining about outdoor businesses, and they've been upset with us when we haven't taken enforcement action.
Was that within the city?
Yes.
Just Pioneer Lanes.
Reference Unos, reference bench warmers.
Oh, okay.
And I've always had the issue with that at what point does the need of the one outweigh the needs or the preferences of the many? Kind of like.
Did you have hours on that patio then?
Well, the ordinance lists kind of standard hours. It's in the report.
Don't know what standard hours.
All outdoor music or entertainment shall cease by 10:30 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday and 11:30 p.m. on Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And it says or earlier as specified in the conditional use permit. So basically the planning commission said they're fine with those hours, but if it becomes an issue, they'd like to have the ability to reduce those hours if needed.
I understand what you're saying about does one complaint. While it might be nice to say it takes at least 3 complaints, not all complaints are necessarily, I would say, equal. I mean, someone calling to complain because the music was too loud is a little bit different than somebody calling to complain because there was a big brawl and people got hurt. So I mean, I'm really reluctant to say, you know, it should be 3 strikes or whatever, because I think that that has to be a discretionary thing in some regards, because, you know, I don't want to say it's 3 complaints and we have, you know, 3 huge incidents. On the other hand, I don't want to say it's 1 and it's like 1 person who calls because they were walking their dog. Right. So I think it's really, it is a discretionary item. And it really deals with safety. It really becomes a health and safety issue more than anything else. At least it does to me.
Mm-hmm. The one thing you'd have to worry about is sort of what you're saying too. Is just somebody might call and complain because they can.
Right.
Right.
Which is a whole lot different than if there were a, you know, a real issue. So I think that there is discretion. And I know it makes it difficult for the police.
That's why I kind of recommend going with the look back period.
With the
look back at it, review it after you've had it in operation for some time.
For a
kind of like what the
summary.
plan commission recommended.
Yeah, we do that with the asphalt plant, where every year they come back for renewal of their conditional use permit, and we review any concerns over the past year.
So it could be a conditional use permit issued for 1 year, is what you're saying, or for 1 season.
And then look back and see how things went.
Yeah, basically looking kind of like our liquor licenses every year. You kind of review it. Okay, do they have a lot of problems or do they not have any problems? And do it that way.
They might do it. He might want to do it this summer, then come next year, he don't want to do it again.
You never know.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Let's be on for action at the next meeting. That does it for the business portion of the meeting. The next part of the meeting is the work session to discuss employee handbook items and TID district recommendations. Let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll meet back at the table.